and I believe that by a huge margin we will endorse Paul Ryan, and I'm told the Tuesday group is going to do so as well. The real question is, what is the House Freedom Caucus going to do? Now, this is a breakaway, smaller group of people who've been unhappy and not very cooperative with leadership over the last several months. I can't answer for them what they're going to do, so we'll have to wait and see. If the Freedom Caucus doesn't endorse Paul, he will not be a candidate. He's made that very clear. So all three of those groups have to endorse him, RSC, Tuesday Group, and the House Freedom Caucus. And if all three of us don't, he is not a candidate. So we will have to go and talk to other people who want to be candidates. Now, those of us from the southern states met with about 7 or 8 of those candidates yesterday, so we've already started that vetting process. So if Paul is not a candidate, there are other people who will be willing to run. In the meantime, John Boehner remains our speaker, and here's the great irony. The House Freedom Caucus, their big thing was getting rid of John Boehner as speaker. The longer we draw this out, the longer John Boehner remains a speaker. So if we want to get John Boehner out of the way, and I think that's where we need to go, we need to get our act together about who we unify around. And right now it looks to me like the decision's up to the House Freedom Caucus. Paul Ryan gave us all a deadline of this Friday, so within the next couple of days. And I'm glad he did that, because otherwise it just kind of draws out, it doesn't need to draw out. Well, I know that they can, and I know that they will. Now, it's not going to look good for Secretary Clinton, and so it's in her interest to try to discredit it. It's in the interest of the people of the Democratic Party that support her to try to discredit it. So will there be an effort to discredit it? Of course. But the facts are the facts are the facts are the facts, and that's what gets lost here. All we want to know are the facts, and we've been stonewalled for months now, years now. We just got a bunch of emails yesterday that we should have had months ago. Well, the stonewalling's over, and all Trey Gowdy wants to do is to get the facts. He's a former U.S. attorney. He knows how to do this. He's very professional. I have 100% confidence in him. We're going to get the facts. We'll make a report, and then the American people can make their own judgment about what that means, and we've got to make some judgments about what we need to change to make sure an incident like Benghazi does not happen again. They're off base. I mean, in an example, there was 2 individuals that spoke and they had no contact with the committee. So I don't know how they can talk as if they know what's going on in the committee if they have no contact with the committee. One individual worked with the committee but left several months ago, and he's not even current on what's been going on the last several months. So I understand that's sort of the Washington game up here, but once again, Darwin, the facts are the facts are the facts. You can't mess around with facts. If the facts show one thing, that's what they show. If they show something else, that's what they show. All we want are the facts, and that's what we're going to get out of this committee meeting. I'm very confident of that. Well, I can't speak for everybody, but I think for the vast majority of us, no, I don't think we're expecting a particular outcome. We're simply expecting to get the facts, and get the facts for us, and get the facts for the families of those who were killed, and get the facts for the American people. That's all that we really need, is get the facts. Everybody can make their own judgments once you have the facts. Well, let's get the facts, lay them out there, and once the facts are there, we can decide what's what. Yeah, I think it's absolutely necessary. The situation in Afghanistan has not made enough progress for us to completely pull out. Now, we did that in Iraq, and you see what's happened. So I think the president is absolutely right to stay there. I think he may need to have more troops than he's got, but he's got the absolute minimum to keep everything from falling apart. So I support him in that. I hope that we'll continue to bear down on what's happening in Afghanistan and the Middle East. And I hope that we'll do something more than we're doing right now to try to keep the Russians from taking over Syria. Well, it means 2 things. Number one, it means that Assad has basically become a vassal of Vladimir Putin. And it's like back in the old medieval days when you were the vassal of your king. So the Syrian leader is now a vassal of the Russian president. The second thing it means is that Russia's decided to make a big play in the Middle East. We spent the entire Cold War trying to keep the Russians out of the Middle East. Now we're willingly allowing them to come in and cooperating with them. That makes no sense to me. We need to keep Russia out of the Middle East, but we've been so weak and feckless in our foreign policy over there that we've given Russia, without having to do much effort at all, more than a toehold in the Middle East, and I think that's very dangerous for the world. Oh, absolutely, more sanctions. I would work with other Sunni Muslim countries that are opposed to the Assad regime to oppose it. I would work with our allies that have been there in the Middle East and put maximum amount of pressure to force Russia to back out. Now they've had a Navy port there in Syria on the Mediterranean for years. I'm not suggesting that we can get them to give up their Navy port, but their use of military fighters, air fighters there, their use of ground troops there is not acceptable. We need to communicate through that to them and use the alliances we have to put pressure on to get them to leave.